Thanks, everyone. I thought it would be an excellent opportunity to talk to you today, given the location of Teaching Matters in our building, about the perspective of sustaining campus from the School of Architecture and Design. And we were lucky enough a few years ago to have this purpose-built facility for us, and we've got a long history in engaging in sustainability in our teaching research. So I want to talk about why is the built environment important in education? First, from a slightly cynical perspective, it's about bums on seats. If you believe this research, prospective students form an opinion of a campus in the first 10 minutes of their visit, and the next 30 minutes they make a decision about whether the college is out or to continue the application process. That means we need a pretty quick visible identity. The second thing is about engaging student learning, and increasingly we recognise that we need a diversity of environments to engage students in the multiple, particularly higher order tasks, and so there's this focus on flexible learning environments to engage students in these different forms of learning. So these are both connected to sustainability. First, from the visual thing, there's this visible green identity presented in the buildings and attracting students to this environment. And secondly, and more importantly, as evidenced by research such as the Smart Green Schools initiatives, exploring these links between space, sustainability and education, they've shown that there's certainly alignment between these. This leads to a focus on on the edge, both in terms of the physical relationship to the edge, where things like light and ventilation, the ability to control your environment, the connection to the outside, these ideas of prospect and refuge are all found to actually support students in their learning. But the other thing is about the conceptual edge. The edge is a powerful zone of innovation and questioning. The opportunities for interdisciplinarity in these informal environments. I see there's someone talking today about the learning commons in the libraries. The Smarties residence in Utrecht has this wonderful bus stop as a seat and a swing as an opportunity to connect with people, and informal opportunities. Who knows what develops? So in UTAS, this is also seen to be important, and it's written into the UTAS strategic plan. And I did a quick Google search of the images, and sadly the first one that came up was the Centenary Building. Don't know if I want to present. We move along the line towards sustainability at the end, and this is where architecture and design is situated. So this was a brief from about 2005. We moved in here in 2007, and we asked the architects to focus on two things primarily. One was sustainability, which became a very overt part of the building design, and also our focus on learning by making and the importance of the workshop to our students. I just wanted to reflect on the past briefly. We used to occupy a series of fragmented spaces at Newnham, some very ordinary spaces, but even there we were quite innovative in occupying the edge. The foyer space was one of the most important places for us, and those of you who remember us there might fondly remember the various strange structures that appeared in the courtyard, which was our primary place of learning. The present is very different. We're now a much more cohesive environment in this one building. And actually the way that the building steps in section means that we can all look down on one another. It's a very acoustically live environment, which can be challenging. But at least we kind of understand where everyone is in the building and supports us as a community. I love this photograph that Louise sent to me to remind me of what life used to be like when we were actually in crits at the old Newnham campus. So there's me, if you don't recognise some of my colleagues listening to crits. And then a photograph of a more recent studio crits environment, which again might be more acoustically challenging, but certainly you don't fall asleep. So a key issue for us is this idea of our ability to transform space and the building as a workshop for learning. And by that, I don't just mean the kind of physical workshop where we're often engaged in learning by making and learning by breaking, but also we situate it as problem-based learning, and the studio becomes the primary focus of everything that we do. And this, I think the architects really recognised. We weren't explicit in this, but they designed the building as a kind of workshop that was permanently incomplete. So it's not like a gallery. It allows us to continually adapt and modify it. And the students are very loose with doing that, and so are we. So these are the kind of cleanest pictures we have of the building before we occupied it. And since then, we've gone on to modify it in a number of ways. It is a thermally challenging building and an acoustically challenging building, and the students, before we had the money to put the blinds on, started putting up umbrellas, building little hubs for themselves, and the lighting was a challenge, so they designed and built mobile tower structures. In other assignments, they've built themselves little group hubs. Some of the best things of these stay around, other ones disappears. They're accessible components of their learning, but they're focusing on the light conditions, the scale of those spaces, what kind of supports their learning activities and learning by doing, which is very important to us. Also inhabiting personal space. We give over a lot of the top floor to students, and they really make them like homes. They bring in bean bags and plant pots. So even when the students aren't there, if you go upstairs, you'll actually see something. It's almost like there's a kind of inhabitation, a feeling of a home environment within the institution. In terms of our pedagogical tactics, the flexibility of the space is also very important. We have a lot of our data projectors set in the studio spaces so we can mix between modes instantaneously. I'm going to talk later on about a studio that I run in 4th year where the floor becomes important, and it is a beautifully warm, hydronically heated surface, very efficient as well. Also, the building transforms in a series of events. You see it at the moment in its formal exhibition space. Ian Clayton was a wonderful moderator of Archie-Idol earlier in the year. And then the last one is a sort of charrette process where we bring years together, and this is actually a very quick design-based thing which culminates in a performance. The students are now so bold in inhabiting the building that they've extended ownership outside of the building informally without permission to guerrilla gardening. It did look an awful lot better when the students were here. We're a bit time poor. I have enough work looking after my own garden, so no one seems to be watering it. But hopefully it will look a lot better when the students return again. So in conclusion, the building is a real learning environment for us, not only in the way that the architects intended in this more didactic form of presenting the various sustainability initiatives, but also the way in which we continually use it and transform it to support our learning and teaching needs. Thank you.